In today's episode, I talk about a technology that has been around for about 25 years that most of you have likely never heard of. It's called CELLIANT. CELLIANT is 13 minerals that are infused into fabrics that convert the heat that our body produces into infrared light to help promote thermal regulation, to help promote healing, to help increase circulation, and to help us feel amazing. It also can be infused into your bed sheets, into a pillow, into this wristband that I'm wearing, into garments that can help increase your own healing capability by reflecting the heat that your body is giving off back to you in the form of infrared light. My philosophy is that nothing can fix you better than you, and this fits right into that philosophy. And my philosophy is that the doctor of the future is the patient, which is also you. So this helps you take the energy that you're just putting out there into the world, recapture it, and heal yourself. I've been using CELLIANT for a few weeks now, and I can already tell you within the first night, I noticed a difference. I have measurable data on my Aura Ring that's improved in terms of my daytime recovery scores. So I know it works. And we're doing research to study this with our clients using Aura Ring to demonstrate the effects across a larger population. So I'm super excited to share with you Seth Casden and CELLIANT. Enjoy the interview. Seth, how are you today, my friend?
I'm great, Sachin. Thanks for having me.
It's an honor and very divine timing that we're having this conversation. Lots of cool things that we're going to talk about today, specifically one of them being energy and how we can convert the energy that we're giving off and reflect it back to us so that we can in turn become our own best healer or become our own doctor, so to speak, right? What I love about this conversation is where it began for me. Today, we'll unpack all of that and just have a fun time together, sharing technology that empowers people to help heal themselves is something that totally lights me up. So why don't we dive right in and start with what is CELLIANT?
Sure. I'm excited to be here again, and thanks for having me. And hello to your audience. And it's such a pleasure to be able to share this technology, with the world. And we've been working at it for about 25 years, and still very new to most people. So I think there's a great opportunity to share and to educate and to bring this wonderful opportunity to people about their everyday's life. I think it's such a good time where we are now on the planet with such a focus on self-care and how to extend life as best we can with natural remedies and treat as many things as we can in preventative medicine. And I think Celliant has a really large and significant place at that table. Uh, Ostensibly, what we've done is really the intersection of life science, of human biology, and really of geology and the science of minerals, and what their ability and capacity is to shift energy from heat specifically to infrared. And so Celliant is a technology that's embedded in textiles. Like the shirt I'm wearing is an Under Armour Celliant shirt. And it basically has millions of micron sized minerals embedded into it. And those minerals absorb the heat from the body. We're giving off about 100 watts of heat every second having this conversation. So that's pretty wild to think about, even when we're sleeping, which we consider, a time of rest. If there was a light bulb hooked up and powered to our body heat, it would be on while we're sleeping. And so that's a potential energy that I think as we look into the future, there'll be more and more innovative ways to harness that. And for us, what we've done is surrounded the body with these minerals that absorb that heat and convert it to infrared. And like you said, reflect and give it back to the body. And that's basically another energy source for the body. And we can get into what the different effects are, and how it helps improve performance and recovery, and help promote restful sleep.
I love that. So the cool thing about Celliant is that it could be embedded into a variety of different fabrics. And so it's not something that just benefits us transiently. It could become part of our everyday life. So one of the examples is the Celliant wristband, right? So this wristband is harnessing the energy, the heat that my body is producing and reflecting it back to me in the form of infrared light. which for those of people that don't know, what exactly is infrared light, and what are the benefits of, reflecting that infrared light back to us?
Yeah, thanks for that question because it's hard when we don't see things. We see in the visible spectrum, which actually is a very narrow spectrum. And when you look at all the wavelengths of light across the electromagnetic spectrum, uh, it's literally just a tiny fraction of what's out there. And as you start with the shorter wavelengths, like ultraviolet, those are the ones that are more harmful to the skin and to the body. And as you move longer into the visible and then beyond visible, you arrive at near and mid and far infrared. And those wavelengths of light, again, they're beyond visible. But if you think about an infrared camera or night vision goggles, they are set to be able to see light in that wavelength. And so that's what we're talking about. And when you put infrared light onto the body, it triggers these biological benefits. It causes a microdilation of the capillary bed. It increases the mitochondria respiration rate, which is our ATP producers. That's where energy is made in every cell. And it really helps, basically at its core, improve local circulation. And so when you improve circulation and blood flow to a given area, all things being equal, you're going to increase performance, you're going to increase strength. If you have increased blood flow to a muscle group, you're going to increase recovery or speed recovery because you're going to eliminate metabolic waste or lactic acid more quickly. And you're going to help with thermoregulation, and it's going to help with sleep. Nitric oxide is naturally produced in the body. It's a vasodilator. Infrared, near infrared particularly, is known to increase the body's production of nitric oxide. And we're mostly made up of water, and infrared also interacts with water in a beneficial way.
Wow. Why don't more people know about this? Why doesn't everyone know about this and use it for themselves?
Well, I think that time is coming, and it's always interesting to see what the sort of points are where things start to change. It's one of these things that has been around for so long. One of our kind of taglines or slogans is ancient wisdom meets modern science. And so, for millennia, people have understood that ceramics and clay and that there's certain healing properties, kaolin, and maybe it wasn't really understood. And you have a group of people that might use something and they understand that it works intuitively. They've experienced it. They've seen the benefits and they're satisfied. And then when you look at sort of the way Western medicine is constructed, it has to be proven beyond any kind of reasonable doubt. And if there's any kind of question, it's generally dismissed. And that's just not how science works all the time, right? We discover things, we don't know exactly how or why, but we can see the results. And then it might take a long time to actually figure out. A great example is aspirin. They knew for decades that it worked, but they didn't really understand the mechanism of action, I think for like over 100 years, if I'm not mistaken. And so with infrared, you have challenges where it's not visible. People can't see something. You're talking about these benefits. Our internal sort of security camera system's going to say, "Oh, snake oil, this can't be that true. That's invisible. Come on." And so there might be a little bit of inherent skepticism, but I think we're getting to a place now where we have arrived where there's so much science on infrared. There's so much published studies. Western doctors are now advising their patients to, use infrared to help with different things. Infrared saunas have been around for so long. And certainly over the last 25 years that we've been doing this, we now see that there's a much higher level of understanding in the consumer market. They understand, they've heard of a sauna now. They've heard of maybe an infrared sauna. But certainly the idea of putting it into textiles is novel and hasn't really caught on yet, and people aren't aware. I think the other thing that is challenging for the way our minds are wired is that traditionally we're told if you want to have an improvement, it requires effort, it requires a lot of work. So if you want to get healthier, you have to either eat better, work out more, or sleep longer. And this idea that there's this passive wellness that you just put on a different shirt or sleep in a different bed and you're going to feel better. It's a little hard. It's a little bit of this sounds too good to be true. It can't be that simple. Why isn't everybody doing it? That's your original question is. And I think that's what's going to be happening is everyone will be doing it because it is good and it is passive and we have to wear clothes and we have to sleep on a bed. So we might as well be doing that with a material that can boost our health and our performance and our overall well-being.
I love that. I love what you said about ancient wisdom, right? Modern science, fusing it together. It's like such a wonderful intersection to be at. And when playing devil's advocate, when I hear the word infrared, I think heat. And so, will I feel hotter or warmer sleeping in Celliant bed sheets, infused bed sheets, or if I wear a shirt, will I feel hotter? Tell me about the user experience.
Yeah, and that's a great question. And it's something we have to really overcome that misperception because typically you go in a sauna and it's set very hot and you sweat, and that's a high intensity amount of infrared. However, if you're dealing with lower intensity levels and you're dealing with just increase in circulation around 8 to 10%, which is what our technology, our products, that's what we see in our clinical studies, it'll actually help cool you if you're too warm because again, if you think about thermoregulation, if your body is in an environment where you're too cold, you have, let's say, an extreme case, frostbite, your fingers are cold, they hurt. Your body is saying it doesn't have enough energy to support the entire system. So it's protecting the core, right? The head, the brain. And then as more energy becomes available and it can have the resources, it will increase circulation. So increasing circulation when you're cold brings you into balance, brings you into warmth. Conversely, if you're too hot, your body starts overheating. It needs to cool itself. So it increases circulation to do that. It increases circulation to get the heat away from the core. And if that's not sufficient, then you start perspiring, which causes evaporation, which causes cooling. Now, with Celliant, you have these minerals that are absorbing heat. So the act of pulling the heat away from the body can actually create a cooling sensation. So if your body's trying to cool itself, it will actually help go in that direction. Now, when you do increase circulation, there is a warmth with that. So there will be like a warming in a lot of cases as you increase circulation, which is just part of the blood flow, but it's not going to make you uncomfortable. And in fact, when you look at sleep, that's one of the concerns that people have is they're too hot or too cold. So being able to increase circulation as you're going to sleep will actually help you go into balance and help you get to sleep, earlier.
Wow. I'm thinking of all the women who have hot flashes and they would just love something that would suck that heat away and then turn it back into infrared light and heal them and support them further. One of the things that I noticed when I started using the bed sheets is they felt cooled almost to the touch. And, I tend to overheat when I sleep. So I've been thinking about getting, like a bed jet or an 8 sleep or something like that. But then I'm like, I don't want to introduce, Wi-Fi and all that, electrical technology into my room. And frankly, I don't want to spend $3,000 either. This seems like it could be a very viable solution to thermoregulate while we sleep. And at the same time, actually improve and enhance healing instead of introducing an electronic device that may have questionable effects on our health from a EMF standpoint.
Yeah, that's really a great point. I was having this discussion with my son's mother because we're wearing Whoop and we're wondering about what that kind of frequency does to a young boy. And, is that the best thing for him? And is it worth having that data with possibly whatever might harm there might be from that? So, that's certainly a consideration. And again, you might want to try things in phases. So you start with the sheets and because there's no external power source, it is subtle, right? So if you're in an environment where it's an extreme, let's just say, 40, 45 C or 100, 110 plus, you're going to feel hot. It's not like
Right, right.
it's not a miracle. And it's limited to the input, which is the body, the heat from the body. If you're in a dark room, obviously, if you go outside, you have the sun's heat, which helps power that effect of infrared going back into the body or the amount of infrared going back into the body. But yeah, your observation about premenopause or menopausal women, I mean, that's some of the strongest testimonials are the people that are out of balance, right? If you're
Mm.
perfectly in balance, it might be harder to have that user perception. But then, smaller incremental benefits have a bigger impact. Whereas if you're having some kind of, Raynaud's or DVT or some type of pre-existing malady that's caused by poor circulation, then you're going to really get that effect. And we had our launch of our pillow a couple months ago at a trade show, and we were talking and interviewing people as they were trying it in the lounge there. And we had one person who was cold and felt, oh, I feel a warming, like I was cold. It's really nice. And then there was a lady that heard him say that, and she said, I actually feel I'm so hot, I'm premenopausal, and this actually cooled me. And it was so cool to see, both people giving the exact opposite experience because their bodies needed to go in different directions at the same time.
Wow. That's amazing. I love that. I love our conversations because there's always light bulbs going off when you speak. One thing I know that they have are infrared cameras, as you mentioned, right? What do we see? What would if I were to look at somebody wearing a Celliant garment? What would I see differently if I were to look at them through an infrared lens?
It's gonna grow, it's gonna glow with a higher intensity. And that's something we've done at trade shows where we'll take a mannequin, two mannequins, one with a standard shirt and one with a Celliant shirt, and we'll have an infrared camera there hooked up to a monitor, and you put one hand on each shirt, and then leave it there for 10 or 15 seconds and pull it away, and then you'll see the shirt that doesn't have Celliant will just go and the hand will disappear, and the one that has Celliant, that handprint will stay on for 20, 30, seconds or longer, depending on how long you charge it up. So that's a really great way to get people visually to go, okay, there is something, I can see it. I just need the right lens to be able to understand it.
Do you ever you must remember that shirt company Hypercolor?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
would be cool. Like a
That was
Hypercolor
really,
Celliant shirt.
yeah, that was really fun when that came out. We were going to the mall and putting our hands on the shirts, and I think people didn't like that because when you sweat and you perspire, and your armpits would change colors. But yeah, I mean that's like a thermoreactive. They also have thermoreactive ink, So there's other ways that you can. We've made hang tags where you put your hand on the hang tag, and then the writing can appear, or you'll see that effect. But yeah, I mean that's sort of playing around with it in a novel sort of marketing way, and then we've taken that and created an actual product to improve your health and wellness.
Right. Have you ever considered, as you brought up Raynaud's, making gloves out of the material or infused with the material for those type of patients?
Yes, and there are some gloves on the market, and actually the wristbands will actually help somebody with Raynaud's. It's close enough that they'll get that can restore feeling and sensitivity in the fingers and help eliminate some of the pain. At least in the people that we've talked to that have tried it anecdotally. We haven't done a clinical study on that yet, but yeah, a glove is a great example. And it's I'm glad that you asked that because one of the things that we realized in doing this journey was, up until this year, we had always partnered with brands. And so the products that were available to consumers were defined by the brand partnerships that we created and that we established. And so we couldn't really directly make a product on our own accord. And so we realized that the best way to grow this message and to interact with the consumer directly was to make our own product line. So that's what we did. And we launched our Selling It pillow, and we have the socks and the wristbands. And now we can add our own products directly to that offering to really target the ones that we think will have the most impact on the patients that are out there that are looking for support.
Exciting times. I love it. I'm imagining all these thousands of people, maybe hundreds of thousands of people with Raynaud's, and a great experiment for them would be to wear a wristband on one side, right? And just on one side to see, for themselves the difference that it makes. And I can even feel a difference now from what I'm sitting outside and it's a little bit cooler today. And my right hand feels warmer than my left hand, the one that has even if I touch it, it almost feels different. So that's awesome. I have the bed sheets. I've got the socks. Your team was kind enough to send those over to me. I've got the wristbands. I know there's pajamas that your company now makes, which is really exciting because then we can take that with us wherever we go, right? There's obviously garments that are made. Are there any hats or toques that you guys make?
We don't currently have that. That we've done prototypes. It's interesting to look at how increasing circulation on the brain can help
Mm,
with brainwave state, help kids with autism or like ADHD. I think that's a real opportunity in the future to look at and study because it does have a calming effect to be able to increase circulation to the brain. That's why the pillow was so exciting for us because that's really the only time that the brain can detoxify itself as while you're asleep.
Mm.
So increasing circulation during that period is can have some great effects. We don't have any customers right now that are in the marketplace with a hat. We've done beanies in the past, which is a great, you lose so much of your heat through your head and your extremities. So we've talked to some of the ski brands, but that's exactly the right thinking. And going back to the wristbands, they're learning that longevity is tied to grip strength. And so we've done a couple of grip strength studies that we have published now showing that just wearing that wristband after 15 minutes, we see an average of 10 or 15% in grip strength.
Hmm.
So it's really, it's really immediate when you have the right diagnostic equipment to measure the effect. You can actually really see some wonderful results immediately,
Have,
relatively
have you
immediately.
have you ever connected with Dr. Amen from Amen Clinics?
I don't believe we have.
Okay, that would be an interesting connection because he scans people's brains using PET scans, and so that looks at circulation and can paint a picture of what that person's brain capacity is, and be interesting to see what happens when you do a pre and post scan of somebody after wearing the hat for a period of time or using the pillow or whatever the case may be, because that would be, again, undeniable evidence that this is helping heal people's brains. Because if we can't get blood flow to a part of our body, our nutrient status is irrelevant. So we'd be eating all the most amazing foods, but if we can't get it to the part of our body that needs it the most, the buck kind of stops there. So anything to increase circulation is going to be hugely helpful for healing and ultimately function as well.
Yes, and you make a great point, and that's one of the things that I think is such a wonderful opportunity because almost all of us have very high blood oxygen levels, and then the issue is how does it get to the peripheral tissue, and what happens is we try and deliver those nutrients outside the core, arterial structure of the body, and that's what infrared has this wonderful capacity to increase blood perfusion, peripherally. And those types of scans are exactly the direction we're heading. So I'd love to work with him and see the before and afters. We've done some preliminary work with like a GDV camera, gas discharge visualization, and seeing how the brain can be brought in and the body can be brought into harmony. And that's really like the next step in terms of additional validation of brain waves and how that can help the body from that perspective.
Nice. Have you ever heard of Muse?
Yes.
MUSE? Yeah, that would be an interesting study to do with them. There's
Yes.
lots of my brain is just spinning with all the clinical applications, possibilities, and ways to validate, right? Like 30 years ago, we didn't have the technology at our fingertips that we do now to validate something in a variety of different ways, right? If we could show brain scan improvement, you're already showing, improvements on infrared cameras, so we already know that it's having that effect. You're showing increase in blood flow. There's nitric oxide. If you know Nathan Bryant, he's like one of the world's leading experts in nitric oxide, and he did a podcast on the diary of a CEO, and it was amazing. Like the thing that he said is that the top three causes of cognitive decline are all related to nitric oxide production and circulation. So this is right in line with that as well. Anything that we can do to increase blood flow is going to improve our quality of life.
And that really is foundational. When you look at a doctor that's attending a patient and you ask them, if I improve circulation to your patient, all things being equal, will they get better, get worse, or stay the same? And almost unequivocally, in all instances, they're going to get better because of that's the foundation to the cells and their health. And so, yes, I mean, that's really exactly what we have sort of professed internally when people were challenging us in the beginning and really didn't quite understand it. I would say, the diagnostic equipment hasn't been invented yet. We have this technology, it has these benefits, but we're not really able to go into the mitochondria and measure the ATP production rate. And now they're just starting to have tools that actually can do that. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm really looking forward to working with those types of companies and that type of equipment to really just put a fine point on the different validation endpoints that infrared affects. Because It affects the nitric oxide production in the body. It affects the vasodilation of the capillary bed. It affects the mitochondria and the production of ATP. And so you have so many things that are happening simultaneously. It almost makes it harder to isolate and really understand that infrared is impacting all of those simultaneously.
Yeah, and if somebody's watching this as a practitioner or even as a healthy skeptic, just look up the benefits of infrared light. And then all we have to ask ourselves is, does this help increase the body's, exposure or capture of infrared light? And the answer unequivocally becomes yes. We live in a very indoor society, so we have really no source of infrared light inside of our home. And if you're under artificial lights, they don't have any infrared light in them. They're basically devoid of that. So the only natural source would be being outside and, primarily with as few clothes on as possible. But if we can, recirculate that energy that we're already giving off, getting it to transmute from heat into infrared light, I mean, how awesome is it that we're just conserving our own resources and using it to heal? I didn't share this, I want to make sure I mention this, that the way this interest in this even came about, the way we connected was so divine. So I went on an ayahuasca journey, and in the medicine, I had a very clear vision that how cool would it be if there was a shirt that would reflect your own energy back to you? Because my philosophy is the doctor of the future is the patient, or in a sense, we are the doctor of the future for ourselves, and nothing can fix our body better than it can fix itself. And so I came back and I wrote it down in my journal. I'm like, oh my God, where do I even start to do this? And then a few months later, I did this in February. And then in May, I met you, or prior to the meeting in May, I met you online on a Zoom call. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so like divine in terms of you even coming into my life. And your team was generous enough to send me some samples to try out. And, I jumped right in. I wore the shirt. I noticed my recovery improved dramatically, like on my Aura ring. I wore the socks, the eye mask, and I just jumped right in. And then I love that this is you know evidence based. It's something that can be infused into a variety of different formats that we can interact with. What we really haven't talked about that I want to jump into is how does it feel? Like the shirt that you're wearing, does it feel any different than a shirt that doesn't have Celliant in it? Like
Yeah,
material wise.
of course, that's a great question, and I think it would be interesting to just share a little bit overview of how we got to this point because you're adding minerals into a process that's designed to filter out and remove any kind of particles because you want that soft hand feel, and that process of adding minerals, it's basically viewed as a contaminant to the manufacturing supply chain. And so we really had to work for a number of years to get it to where it didn't feel scratchy, it didn't feel irritable. And there are other brands obviously out there that are doing this, but almost unequivocally, they are all a coating because it is so hard to embed the minerals. And so you have a coating that's going to be rubbing on your body. Not that that's harmful, but it can be irritating. And then also through washing, it's going to come off. And what we have developed is a way to put the minerals in at the liquid stage when the yarn is being formed. And so once it's extruded and cooled, the minerals are embedded inside. So our process, it's not an application or a wash or a finish or a dye. It's actually done when the yarn is extruded. And then that allows for a soft hand feel. So it's going to feel basically the same as any other product that you might try that doesn't have a mineral additive.
Yeah, that's what I noticed. It felt like any other shirt in terms of its hand feel and how it felt on my skin and everything. Even the sheets, when I open them up, I'm like, wow, these are so luxurious and so nice. And I noticed again the cooling effect for myself personally. So yeah, it's a very it just fits right into our life, right? Without even us knowing. And that's what I love. You shared that it's passive, which I'm all about. And the other thing I'm all about is us healing ourselves. So this like checks off so many boxes for me, and why I got so excited meeting you. And why I'm also excited is because we're going to actually be doing a study together where we're going to take people who have aura rings, measure their baselines, and then measure the effect that the Celliant products have on their sleep quality. And then, let's see what comes back. I have a strong feeling it's going to be very positive, but the data will tell us. And again, we didn't have this ability to do something like this at a very reasonable, investment. It would have cost tens of thousands of dollars to do this kind of research before, and now it's just the materials cost of giving the stuff to people and measuring them. So I'm really excited about that to kind of further validate, what you've already discovered through a different lens of sleep and HRV and heart rate variability and such.
Yeah, I'm really excited as well. I share your enthusiasm, and I think at least from the terms of being able to execute something like this, it just wasn't really possible. To your point, if you had to do a sleep study where somebody goes into a sleep clinic, it's tens of thousands of dollars a night, and you want to look at somebody for 30 days, and you want to look at hundreds of people. It's just cost prohibitive, and this allows us and affords us opportunity to really see what are the measurable benefits, and also how do people feel, and there's increasing the amount of sleep you get, or increasing the amount of exercise, or changing your diet. But sometimes, you sleep for 8 hours and you don't feel good when you wake up. And sometimes you sleep for 6 hours and you feel great. And we don't fully understand all of those reasons. And so, I'm really looking forward to just seeing how people also report back their sleep quality and the energy they have. And in our initial pilot study, people fell asleep faster and slept
Mm,
longer with less awakening. So they actually were getting a little bit less sleep every night, but they were feeling better and getting a higher quality of sleep, which is really interesting to see. So, I'm really excited about it too. And it's this plug and play sort of, you just put it on, you put it on your bed, and that's it. You can forget about it. So I think that aspect, it really lowers the resistance level, and people were so swamped in our daily lives, and there's just so little bandwidth to make changes, and they can be very hard, and also very costly to try and implement. And having something that is just changing a product that you already use out for one that has something built into it is really kind of a no-brainer.
mm. I wonder how this affects fertility. Has that been studied at all? That would be an interesting study.
Well, it's interesting in the sense that when you increase circulation, I mean, that's basically what Viagra was invented for. And
Hmm.
we had a partnership with Duluth Underwear, and they really leaned into that, and had the date night redwood underwear for men, and so that's certainly one of the benefits of increasing circulation, and then how that might help somebody. From a fertility standpoint, would be really interesting to look at beyond just, erectile function.
Yeah. So many ideas, so many possibilities. I shared a bit of my origin story in terms of what sparked my interest in this area. What does Salient mean to you? What's your origin story?
Yeah, for me, it was one of these things where I intuitively understood that it worked. And sometimes you learn things and it's hard to explain to other people, but you just know, like in your body, that something's true. And it could be about anything. And I just always had, from a very young age, this understanding that there are ways to heal ourselves and improve ourselves. I think, I've never really heard it articulated in the way that you have, and I think it's, it really is, our holistic health is in our control, and it's for us to understand our bodies and our needs, and adapt and heal ourselves. And as I met the inventor, and developed, worked with what he was developing, and it just was something I was really passionate about. And then I started seeing the effects on animals and other people, and it's just so fulfilling to be able to help people that have tried a lot of things that haven't worked, and they're living with something that is causing them discomfort or disease. And just these subtle changes can actually eliminate that and bring them into complete health and function. And so I was hooked basically from the moment I heard about it. And if anything, didn't really understand the level of skepticism that the world would kind of bring towards this, and the level of validation that we would need to really affirm and establish this unequivocally, across all types of medicine.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge task at hand. right? Because you're dealing with changing manufacturing processes, right? And incorporating this technology into very industrialized processes and well-established processes already. So kudos to you and your team for making that happen and believing in it so much that you're willing to jump through all the hoops and do all the things that are necessary to share this with the world. Um, I'm curious from a consumer's perspective, where can we buy some of these things? Like, are they already available to people for people to buy at a consumer level? If they are, like, where do they go if they want to incorporate this into their lives?
Yes, thanks for that. I think I mentioned maybe Under Armour before. They're probably our highest profile partner in the United States. In Europe, we work with Decathlon, which is the largest sports retailer, I think, in the world, similar to like our REI. And then we have betting partners like Pure Care and Athletics, Sleepletics. And so really, I would say, depending on what the product that the consumer is looking for, you can just type in Celliant either on Amazon or into Google or Chat GPT and whatever your browser are now. I think a lot of us are starting to use AI to look for everything, and then just see that there's dozens and dozens of different types of products. We do kinesiology tape with our partnership with KT Tape. Like I mentioned, we have our own store now. It's shopcelliant.com. So there you can get pillows and sheets, and socks and wristbands, the eye mask. So we really wanted to focus on the sleep solution because sleep hygiene is such a critical thing and so important right now for all of us to kind of make improvements there. And we have great partners with some of the apparel brands. So that is something we identified as a great opportunity for us. So yeah, there really is a diverse, I mean, we wetsuits, Excel wetsuits. So just about every type of product that you might have, there's a Celliant option out there.
Hmm. The biggest thing in fitness right now is not fitness; it's recovery. And it seems like we have athletic gear when we go to the gym, and it would be great to have recovery gear, for our days off or when we're not at the gym to be able to recover faster, push ourselves harder the next time we're in there. Um, so it almost seems natural that Lululemon, which I know Under Armour and Lululemon are under the same parent company, would make recovery pants because I think most women are looking for a reason to buy another pair. And if
Yeah,
they have, go ahead.
no, I didn't mean to talk over you. Yes, recovery would be great. I actually think they are independent companies, just to be
Oh, okay.
clear. But we have a partnership with Defend and DFND, and they have a whole recovery line. But certainly Aloe or Lululemon, that would be a great partnership. We also have great recovery wear. There's a company called Heat Healer based out of Australia, and Sunlighten is a partnership we've had for a long time. They do infrared saunas with Celliant
Hmm.
fabric, and then they've started their own Celliant apparel line as well. But certainly the more brands that adopt, ultimately we think that all brands should have this as just their base fabric,
Hmm.
and make whatever products they want. But it doesn't make sense to not have this technology embedded now that it exists, because it should be in everything and just help us get that little performance and recovery boost, as just sort of table stakes baseline.
Yeah. I have a funny thought that I don't even know if it's possible, but I'm just going to throw this out there. It would be interesting. I know everyone would buy one of these if it could charge their phone.
Yeah, and we've looked at that, and they're having ways where your phone charges while it's in the pocket, right?
Yeah.
And you're walking, they have kinetic charging. Yeah, but if we could show that while your phone's in the pocket of your pants, it doesn't lose any power, at least stays the same or goes up, that would definitely be next level.
Or even if you could take their heat and then convert it into like infrared and then somehow electrical energy and they could just plug their phone into their shirt.
Yeah.
It'll be a non-negotiable, right? Everyone's always looking for a charger to plug their phone into, but just a funny thought I had because you know we're ruled by our devices at times, and we need juice as much as we can get it.
We've had that thought for a long time. We've been working on it.
Um, this has been very enlightening, no pun intended. I'm even more excited to go to bed tonight, knowing what I know now. The 13 minerals, the stories that you shared, the passion that you have for putting this out there in the world, the generosity of you and your team. I appreciate it very much. What would you say to somebody? We've given them some direction in terms of, what where they can go to find some of the products. Where would you say somebody should start? Like, if you had to just say, hey, here's your Celliant starter kit, what would
Yeah.
you want them to get?
I would say try the socks or the pillow. The socks, people notice their feet are tired, they swell. There's problems with sweating. Your foot's basically trapped in a compartment in a shoe that doesn't have circulation, and you can get blisters and odor and because of the moisture. So, the socks give a really strong user perception. And then a pillow, sleep. You can never, everyone's always looking for a great pillow, right? And so being able to have that night where you maybe don't get all the sleep you want, or you do get the sleep, but just know you have a better edge and a better chance of waking up feeling great. Um, those are probably the two basic staples that will give the biggest experience for the user.
Okay. And then since I have the bed sheets and the pillow cover, is the pillow different? What's the difference between buying the pillow and just having the pillow cover?
So yes, like you said, the sheet, when you buy the sheet set, you get a pillowcase. Just really the quantity and loading. Our pillows are stuffed by 50% weight of the pillow is our mineral fiber,
Oh,
whereas
wow.
the pillowcase is a very thin, it's meant to be very loose on the pillow and thin. And so there's just from a mineral content, it's really just a fraction of the amount that you would get if you had a pillow that was filled with it.
Okay. Well, one more thing on my wish list. Thank you. Thank you. Seth, this has been very enlightening, very inspiring. I'm, over the moon about helping you share this with the world and excited to have other people experience the magic of what Celliant has to offer. So, for those of you that are listening, we've given you some websites you can go to. We'll post those in the show notes that you have access to them. Seth, is there any way that myself or my community can help you get the word out there?
I think just trying the product, go ahead and try it, and love to hear from people. You can find me on LinkedIn, send me a note, and love to hear the feedback, and appreciate the support and the willingness to try something and see how it works.
Amazing. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.